Hey, welcome to the Science Masterclass. Today we're going to learn about how organisms are made. My name is Mr. Salagaras and this is part of my Year 8 Science Biology course. So all living things, or organisms, reproduce to make sure that their species survives and that genetic information is passed on. There's only a few species, such as humans, which reproduce for pleasure. Reproduction is quite complex. There are different types. Two of them that we're going to focus on are sexual and asexual reproduction. We're going to talk more about those in a different video, so stay tuned for that one. All types of reproduction pass on genetic information, which you might have heard of as DNA, from the parent or parents to the offspring. This genetic information can encompass things like appearance, psychological attributes, physical features, and even things like susceptibility to disease, so how prone an organism is to catching a particular type of disease. These things are called traits. Okay, so the parent or parents pass those traits or a portion of those traits onto the offspring. So different organisms, as you can imagine, would reproduce in different ways. Bacteria reproduces quite differently to that of a human for a number of reasons, such as probably the most obvious, sexual anatomy of a bacteria is quite different to that of a human. And those sort of things contribute to the way that different organisms reproduce. Another thing that influences reproduction are factors such as environmental conditions, availability of food, access to mating partners, or sexual viability of species of that organism. So sexual viability just refers to the availability or the ability to produce sex cells, and there's a whole bunch of other ones. So if I was to talk a little bit more about that, environmental conditions, some organisms only reproduce when the conditions are right. So when there's like enough water, when the temperature's right, and things like that. Availability of food and water, that's influenced by environmental conditions, but if there's not enough food for the offspring, then that organism or animal usually won't reproduce. Access to mating partners obviously contributes to the reproduction of a species. If there's a billion males of an animal and there's only one female, then it's going to be a real problem trying to find breeding partners. And in the sexual viability, there's some animals like the mule, which is actually sterile, which means that it can't actually produce any eggs, or it's just infertile. That's just the way that it's bred, because it's a cross between a donkey and a horse. Okay, let's summarize our main points. Got a little bit sidetracked there, but that's all right. We talked about how organisms are made, the purpose of reproduction to make sure that the species survives and that genetic information is passed on. We talked about the two types, or briefly touched on asexual and sexual reproduction, and that genetic information or DNA is passed on from the parent to the offspring. And we also talked about how reproduction is influenced by sexual anatomy and also by a range of other factors there. Okay, hey, make sure you watch this video again if there's points that you missed. Make sure you comment on the video, like it, subscribe to my channel, and watch it again if you missed anything. Hey, thanks for watching.